This episode is sponsored by Squarespace.
So another vote for meat, a meaty one, meaty bot, a meaty one, meat, an upper. Yeah, but then there's another vote for a meaty one. Meat. It looks like the patrons have voted. I'm going to be making a meaty one today. This would be one of those really good opportunities to chuck up a clip from Lord of the Rings, when he's like, meat's on the menu, boys, that famous clip. But we don't do that around here. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 73. I remembered the number. Today we're going to continue with the Bangarang series, where I make miniatures for my game, Bangarang. Bangarang in the Gutterlands, to be more precise. We were just going to call it Bot Bangarang, but we googled that name, and that name's taken. It's a comic somewhere, and basically any name you can think of, Google it, and something's been called that. So we decided to call it Bangarang in the Gutterlands, which if you Google that now, that's taken as well, which is it's just ridiculous. But if you didn't see the last episode, Bangarang is basically a tabletop game. It's like Tonks. It's made by the same guy who made Tonks, with me, with all my Gutterlands lore, which you can find here at this website, thegutterlands.com. That's enough, Bill. And it's basically Robot Jocks mixed with Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. So, that's the best way of me describing it. But I already went on about that last episode. Today we're going to talk about making a meaty bot. Last week I made this little guy here. This is a bead bot, which is one of the factions in my game. And today we're going to make one of the other factions, which was voted for by my patrons. Basically, it's a robot made out of meat. I hope you enjoy it. So, we're going to draw. As always, I like to sketch a little before I build something, because, it helps me generate ideas. Now, we're going to design some meaty bots. Now, I do have a confession to make. I was in the middle of drawing, and the postman knocked at the door, and I had to quickly run out. I turned the camera off. I started drawing, and I forgot to press record again when I got back. I don't know if you're going to notice the weird jump cut. I'm sure it's not going to be too noticeable. If you... Oh, hold on a minute. What's that behind you? Something just walked. Oh no, it's okay, nothing, don't worry about it. So these are my designs for my meaty bots. Basically just lumps of meats with lots of pipes coming out of them and lots of eyes. I've also designed a few more hand attachments, which I'm going to paint little hazard stripes on, I think. I want them to be more kind of universal, so I can use the bead bot hands on the meaty bot and vice versa. So to make my meaty bot, I think I'm going to have to use 2-part epoxy putty, like a Milliput or green stuff, which is stressful. That stuff stresses me out because it has a curing time. It doesn't cure instantly. It's not like, looking at Medusa and you just kind of cure immediately, if you know what I mean. But it does stress me out because it adds a time limit. But, then again, everything stresses me out, to be honest. Just popping over to the shop and buying a pot noodle stresses me out. I think I might have to go back and repaint my beadbot accessories, I think, from last episode. But that's all right. We'll do that later. But there are my designs for my meaty one and my meaty bot for Bangarang. Let's start making it, shall we? So this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, Squarespace is a website where you go to make websites. Now, if you have no idea how to make a website, you don't know how to do with a HTML, is it HTML? I'm not sure. And you just want to make a website about things like, like a pickle website, for example. Like that, like pickle perfection. That's it, Bill. Click there. If you just want to make a website that's quick and easy and clean and nicely designed, then go to Squarespace. I made this website in it must have been like 0.5 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer, I'm not sure. But it was really easy and it looks pretty good. And I will add stuff to it at some point. But if you want to make your own website, there's a sale going on at Squarespace. There's a little link down below. Go and have a look. After the episode, obviously. So I'm essentially going to be sculpting a mini today. I think I'm going to use green stuff, and you need like a little hand clamp. Now I didn't have a hand clamp, but I do have some Jenga blocks, so I drilled a little hole in them, and I've got this little screw doodad. And here we go, a homemade hand clamp thing. So I need to make an armature, and this is my little collection of wire. I've got all sorts of different gauges, but we're going to use this one today. I have no idea in retrospect why I decided to use this wire. I think I just wanted to get rid of it, but it's that kind of wire that doesn't really bend very well. I'm not sure what it's for, but we're gonna braid it, make it extra strong. I learnt this trick from Tinu from Craftastrophe. Now this is my template for a Bangarang bot. I made this last episode. Basically 60mm tall by 40mm wide. I really do need to make a better template. It's pretty shoddy, even for me. Yeah, it's not the best wire to work with. But once it is in position, just lock it in there. And it's about the same size as my bead bot, which is good. That's good. And we're just going to wrap more wire around it. I'm not really sure why I did this. I think I just kind of wanted to bulk it out. I wasn't going to use tin foil this time because it's just too small. And also keep the wire in place, make it just a bit more sturdy. Plus, with a meaty bot, I don't mind the fact that there might be little wires showing through the meat, because it is a meaty bot at the end of the day. Now this is generic holiday wire. I still can't find this in the pound shop. I don't know what's happened. I think I might have the only bit of generic holiday wire left in the country, so it's valuable stuff. I might send it on eBay. So I don't really sculpt minis that often. I've done it a few times and always on video, so I don't really get a chance to actually focus and do it properly. But that's what we're going to do today. Now I'm going to use some of these beady bits, some of these hemispherical rhinestone things, just to add as much detail as I can before I start adding green stuff to it. So the meaty ones, one of their main characteristics, other than being made of mainly meat, is that they have lots of eyes on the front of their face. So I'm just going to add tons of eyes. And they have these weird big orbs on their back, which are like power generator things. They're solar vine orbs. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't blame you. Basically, go to thegutterlands.com, which is like a wiki with all my lore, and you can find out what the hell I'm talking about. Now these are two of the last remaining plastic cotton buds that I've managed to claim in my workshop. Basically they're nice little tubes. So I'm going to use this little heat torch thing to kind of melt them into a weird, I don't know, kind of more of an organic shape. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I just wanted the fumes just to perk me up. Now you can't really get plastic cotton buds anymore. These are a thing of the past. I've still got quite a few, but you can use other things like, I don't know, like cake pop sticks. Can you still get them? Or these little glass bead tube things. I don't know what they're called. But yeah, your two main defining features of a meaty one is tubes and lots of eyes. Oh, and meat. Lots of meat. But we're going to add the meat on here. Well, now actually, I think. So this is green stuff. We're going to use some green stuff to sculpt. Now I've got a confession to make. I've never actually used green stuff on its own. I've always just used it with MEATY ONE to be safe, because I kind of know how MEATY ONE works. I've never used green stuff on its own before, and I'm a little bit intimidated by it because I know it's pretty tough here. Like, it's just not really mixing that well. It could be because it's freezing. So I'm going to use some of my Vaseline, my on-the-go Vaseline. When you need to when you see your dad out and about. But we're going to use some of this to kind of soften it up a bit because it is pretty firm. Now, I don't know if this green stuff is really old, but it's really hard to mix. Now, is that always the case? I don't know. I've got so much green stuff in this workshop that I've just never used. It might have been sitting there for about 3 years. But I looked up online, and apparently that's okay. It can still work after that long. But it's just really tough to use. You've got to use a lot of tools. In some way, that's probably better because middle part, I'm constantly putting in little dents and fingerprints that I don't really want to put in there. And this stuff seems to be a bit more forgiving with my big clumpy fingers. So as you can probably tell, my main objective here is just to cover the whole thing in green stuff to begin with. I mean, it is just going to be a walking meatball anyway. So now onto the fun bit. I'm doing quotation marks on my fingers there. You can't see that. It doesn't really work on voiceover. But we're just going to be carving in some details. It's kind of like bubble gum, this stuff, like chewing gum. It's very kind of like flexible, which I quite like it, to be honest. I do quite like it. I'm kind of scraping little lines around the eyes there. I want to give him some bags under his eyes, like he's been up all night worrying about this Bangarang match he's got the next day. I want him to look a bit tired and haggard. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure what details to carve into this. I just kept carving in details. Just texture. Lots of texture. Lots and lots of texture. And when you're doing like an amorphous blob like this, I suppose you can't really go wrong because a few holes here, a few holes there. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. What's a good looking lump of meat? Insert your dad joke there if you like, or ask your wife. She might have she might know what a good looking lump of meat is. I'm just going to stop there. But we're going to use some isopropyl alcohol to wipe off the fingerprints that I've left over the whole thing. And I think that looks like a lump of meat to me. So this is a G-string, not that kind of G-string, like a guitar string that I'm going to use for cables. Now these little guitar strings have nice little ridges in them. They make really cool little chords. Go to your local guitar shop and ask for little offcuts because they've always got them behind the counter. Or you could be cool like me and own and play a guitar. You might have your own guitar strings sitting around. I play guitar to my kids in the bath, but they're constantly trying to drown each other. I don't know if they're trying to attack each other or do each other a favour. I'm not sure. This is EVA foam. We all know what EVA foam is by now, right? Do we? We must do. I'm going to put little plates of metal all over my meaty boy because, I imagine he wasn't complete. He's a biological weapon and he needed a bit of like fixing here and there, little makeshift bolts holding bits together. And I'm going to drill little holes in these stubs to put little magnets in. Now, there's nothing worse than putting a magnet in the wrong way. So make sure you, check that it's in the right way, the north and south, whatever. Because if it isn't, you have to dig it out and it's just a pain. But yeah, that seems to be fine. That seems to work. Now I'm going to be making a few more hand attachments today, but these are the ones from my green bead bot from last episode. Now, I kind of like the idea of being able to use those on this model, so I might have to repaint this green here. Make it a bit more of a universal colour, like a hazard stripe. What's more universal than a hazard stripe? Now for Bangarang we use 39mm bases, which happens to be almost exactly the same size as poker chips, so that's what I'm going to use. So just another little comparison to see if they're the right scale, and they look about the same size. He's a little bit bigger, but that's fine. Everyone hunches in the gutterlands. I don't know what it is, maybe it's the lack of vitamin C. And before we paint, all we need to do is just make some feet. Now, I have no idea what I'm going to do with the feet. I think I'm just going to have them as little lumpy stubs that go into the ground. Always put the base on before you do the feet because it just makes it so much easier. And there we go. I think that's ready for paint. See ya! So there's the Meaty One's body done. We need to make some hands. Now, I'm making little hands that detach and reattach magnetically. I want to make little magnetic hands so I can switch them out between all of my bots. Because in the game of Bangarang, you can change out your hands for different weapons. You can switch up your loadout for your character every game to make it more fun and adaptive, and you can try out different combinations, see which works for you. So I'm making all my hands magnetic, but you don't have to do that. See, now I had a little think, like, magnets are a pain. You don't have to use magnets. You can always use little bits of Lego if you have that, or you could just make a model and just say, look, he's got a machine gun there and he's got like a hammer. He doesn't actually physically have to have it on the model. This is just me being fancy pants, to be honest. I just wanted to use some magnets. I'm starting to regret it now. But anyway, I need to come up with some ideas for hands. I'm going to look through the little rule book. I just need to figure out which ones I want to make today. Well, fork hands. No, that's stupid. Now that would look stupid, I think. No, that's a good idea, actually. Fork hands, yes. I think fork hands is a really good idea, don't you? Nothing wrong with fork hands. But before we paint, we need to make some hands using my mitts. We're going to use some more beads because, you know, I just got lots of beads, lots and lots of beads. Plus, they're made out of wood and they're pretty easy to cut. And yeah, I just got lots of beads. So I'm going to use this little file here to kind of gouge out a little indent. I'm going to make some kind of weird axe blade, like an axe blade, just some kind of little blade fist thing, a bladey thing. Now these are plastic spacers. I think you use them for windows. I don't know how you'd use them for windows, but they're pretty cheap bits of plastic and they've got nice little ridges on them. So I'm just going to cut a weird little axe head. I think kind of looks like an axe head. I don't know how effective it would be, but it looks like a blade. Once we paint it up, it'll be fine. As per usual, use some EVA foam to cover up all those little mistakes and gaps. You know, EVA foam's your best friend. Unless you actually have a best friend, then it might be your second best friend, or, you know, just an associate, a colleague, maybe. I mean, you know, stop rubbing it in that you have friends, okay? There we go, stick your magnet in, and that's my little weird axe hand. So now I'm going to make some kind of grenade launcher. In the game of Bangarang, one of the weapons is a launcher, which basically means you can shoot over terrain and hit people behind cover. So that's what I'm going to make here. So I'm just using bits from like the screw drawer and these little wooden pieces from a wooden kit for something or other. I'm not sure what it was for. And that kind of looks like a grenade launcher. Obviously we need some kind of grenades to go with it. And I've got lots of these little biro pen nibs. They make perfect kind of little mini rockets. That actually seemed quite lethal. They pinged off at quite a velocity there. I actually ducked for cover at one point. But yeah, just be careful when you cut little biro nibs. That's a weird sentence. But yeah, be careful. And there we go, my little mini grenade launcher. Obviously add your rivets, you need your rivets, and I think those grenades really make it. It's a bit messy, but come on, it doesn't really matter. Let's just see if they connect to these little stubs. And yeah, I think they look pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. I don't know what else to say really. Yeah, they work on either hand. That's how magnets work really, I guess. Let's paint it. So I primed this thing using Pound Shop black spray paint with white spray paint on top, and it's so cold outside it just kind of spluttered on it, like it didn't really work. So I'm going to use a bit of dry brushing just to, you know, cover up any spluttery mistakes. But just when you thought I was going to give you some painting advice, a few tips and tricks, techniques here and there, no! Painting time with Bill is story time with Bill, because painting time is boring time and boring time is story. I messed that up. I'm keeping it in though, doesn't matter. So let's talk about the meaty ones. So in the game of Bangarang, basically robot jocks mixed with Mad Max Thunderdome, robots fight against other robots, and the meaty ones are a type of biological weapon. They're a biological robot that you can choose to build if you kind of like that kind of thing. The majority of these meaty ones come from the carcasses of tumour fiends and meat fiends and meat monsters that come from Meat Mountain. That's a lot of meat in one sentence. If you don't know what I'm talking about, obviously go to thegutterlands.com, you know, for your information. So out of the 4 factions you could build for a game of Bangarang, the meaty one faction, you know, they're kind of frowned upon. They're kind of looked at with disgust because, let's face it, they're pretty disgusting. You know, the meaty mechanics tend to be arm deep in guts and gore all day as they're trying to fix their machines. Now, there are benefits to using a meaty one. You know, they're very flexible. They can regenerate health over a match because they just basically scar up and carry on. But they're not very good in direct sunlight. They tend to have to hide in the shade quite a lot. They have to stick quite close to terrain. Now, in the town of Respite, there aren't a lot of people that can actually work with meat. You know, there's not a lot of meat mechanics that can turn these biological weapons into, like, you know, robots for them to use. It's kind of a lost art. Now, back in the day, there would be armies that would use biological weapons, you know, for everything. Now, in the time of the Great War, people used DNA as almost like a computer code. They broke it down so much, they knew the ins and outs of the whole thing. They could basically program DNA to grow into whatever shape they wanted. They could program it to have rotating wheels made of bone. They could program it to have nice little comfy recliner seats for people to sit in. Basically, any shape you could think of, or simple mechanics, could be grown from a test tube. And that's what they used to do. That's how they used to make their weapons. But obviously, over the years, it's become more and more deformed and less maintained, and you get things like the meat mountain. The coding has been kind of broken down over the years, and it's just not quite as good as it used to be, which is why they look like walking meatballs. But let's make some crusted, because we haven't done this in a while. There we go, some crusted for you. Now, the meat mechanics aren't as good as their predecessors. There's lots of gaps in the DNA code they can't seem to fill, but they make do with these walking lumps of meat, and they have to make weapons that attach. You know, they can't grow them anymore. So that's why you see meaty ones with metallic pipes coming out and metal plates and metallic weapons, because, you know, that's kind of a lost art. And that's basically the summary of the meaty ones. That's what they are. You know, if you want to choose this faction in Bangarang, we won't judge you for it. You know, we just know you've got good taste in movies. But I'm just going to paint these hazard stripes, so I just need to concentrate for a bit. So I decided to go back and repaint all of the Beadbot's arm accessories and just painted hazard stripes over all of them. Because hazard stripes, you know, who doesn't like a hazard stripe? And they're more universal in that way. I can switch them between the meaty one and the Beadbot and a junk bot and all of that. So there we go. Now we just need to oil wash it up. And that's how you make oil wash, just in case you were wondering. Now I'm going to oil wash up all these hands, but I'm also going to oil wash up the meaty one, because it's just looking a little bit too clean at the moment. I'm not really too happy with how clean it looks. It does look pretty terrible there, but don't worry, we'll sort that out later. So when you put too much brown wash on, like I obviously have, you just basically take a little bit of white spirit on a sponge or a tissue or an old plastic cotton bud and just wipe off the excess. And it usually turns out all right. It looks pretty terrible there, but wait for it to dry. So here we are. Here's my little meaty guy with, comes with attachments. Where's the other one? I'm going to lose all these attachments, I know I will. But yeah, there we go. Look, and these attachments are going to work with this guy, because, hazard stripes. What doesn't go with hazard stripes? Nothing. Ask your local bumblebee. They wear them all year round. It's a really terrible bumblebee joke. But what came first, the hazard stripe or the bumblebee? These are all very deep questions. Perhaps bumblebees decided to paint themselves with hazard stripes to look hard. I don't know. So next week, we're going to be making another one of these bots. I hope you enjoy watching me make them. because, you know, that's what I'm going to be doing again. And if you really do enjoy the channel, subscribe and like it and comment and just all that interaction stuff. Kat will give you a little heart on your comment. And if you really, really enjoy it. I saw some of your faces when I was making the thing earlier, and you had a big smile and you just looked like you were really enjoying it. I mean, hopefully it was for the right reasons. Join Patreon, because Patreon's the only way that I can keep this channel going, really. You know, it's the only way I don't have to do a 9-to-5 job and release a video every 2 years. I can see some of you there shaking your head with your pint of bitter saying, you probably should go out and get a real 9-to-5 job, you silly and you would have no videos to watch when you get home from your 9-to-5 job. But yeah, I appreciate it. I think that's it. There's something I forgot. The fork hands. Yeah, I forgot to make the fork hand. Yeah, I forgot to make the fork hands for Kat. But to be honest, I don't feel too bad, because I just remembered I don't like you, Kat. So yeah, you make your own fork hands. I'll see you next time. So there we have it, the Meaty One, my Meaty bot for Bangarang. This was a build voted for by my patrons over on Discord, and they chose Meaty One. It was a toss-up between Meaty One or an upper, both the most challenging factions for Bangarang to build, for me anyway, because, you know, it's different technique. But what do you think? Do you think it worked out quite well? I'm quite happy with it. I think it's quite handsome, it's quite a nice looking fella. Comment down below, let me know what you think. Now, if you did enjoy this, really do consider joining Patreon. It's a couple of quid a month. It means a lot to me. It keeps this channel going, and you know, it gives me the motivation. Because when people leave Patreon, it's kind of like I'm to think, what am I doing wrong? And on Patreon, you can let me know what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right, or you could just stay quiet and just give me the money. I don't really mind. But you know, thank you very much, Patreon.